The next one, and that is the Morning Star. Morning Star, you're number 12. Last number 12. Looking good, happy. Mark now using the same runway, deck 3 midship.
Yeah.
Steep frogs.
Now that can take off.
They showed it on the, we went for the departure thing and they had it up on the screen. I think where it was. And where the guy was happening. I just had a picture Mr. Steve, are you the last one?
I think he's the last one, I think.
Okay.
He's the last one.
Number 12.
We're in Santorini. We made it. It wasn't as, it's not as difficult as it sounds, all that tendering operation. And it was quite quick, I have to admit. So, are you ready for one of the most fascinating rides of your life? Okay. Spiros is the one that will offer that experience to you, our driver. Kalispera, Spiro. And we also have our local assistant that will that is at our disposal for anything that happens, and his name is Christos. And we are driving to Ia, which is the northernmost part of the island. It's that white town that you see on top of the cliff, right in front of you, a little bit to the left right now. I know I have to talk about the disembarkation procedures. I'm not going to do this now because I believe that this experience is one of a kind and I don't want to waste this time. So,
Oh, the
we're
curtain. Can you
driving
move?
up
There
to
you
the
go.
top of the caldera.
Thank you. That's good. That's good.
And you can see that the caldera is actually a complex of smaller and bigger islands, starting with Santorini, where we are now. Santorini is the popular name and the commercial name of this place. It is Italian, Santa Irene. When the Venetians were here back in the medieval days, there was a church in another part of the island called dedicated to Saint Irene, and that's why the island was named Santorini. The official name is Thira, Thira. So we are on Santorini, and at the opposite side, in the middle of the caldera is that bay filled with water. It's again an Italian word. It corresponds to cauldron of the English language. So that was in the middle of the caldera. We have two very dark brown islands, uninhabited. It's the old and the new Kameni. Kameni means burned, because actually it is the petrified magma and lava that has been flowing out of this volcano the last centuries. We'll talk about the eruption. So now it's on your left, and you can see two more islands. There is Thirasia, that is to say Little Thira, right across the opposite side. You can still see that there is a town on top of the island right across. This is Thirasia. And we have a small island, Aspromisi, White Island, a little bit further to the back. This is where we entered from, which is half white and half brown. So this is the complex of islands, with Santorini, where we are, being by far the most famous and one of the most famous destinations worldwide because of this magnificent landscape. So the caldera has very interesting dimensions. It's 7.5 miles to 4.5 miles approximately from side to side.
What's I gotta pass this on this side. Around this.
He's been doing that for 35 years. I didn't finish my sentence. Not on Santorini, on other places. That's his first time on Santorini.
It's his first time.
Sometimes it can be up to 10 times a day. And he's 18 years on this island, but he has traveled and driven across Europe professionally. From the sea level to the top is 1,000 feet, and from the sea level down to the bottom of the sea is 1,200 feet. That's almost that drive from the port up to the top. It's a little bit less than 4 miles. because of the zigzag and the sharp turns.
They really wanted this road to get built, didn't they?
So the island of Santorini, it has this extremely dramatic landscape by this side, the caldera side as we say, but during our drive to Ia, we will have the opportunity to see also the outer coastline, which is much smoother. Spiros tells me to see on your left now the caldera. So this caldera is the outcome of a very big explosion, eruption, volcanic eruption, back in 1600 BC. It was, we know that the island had a round shape earlier than that, and this eruption, until nowadays, we can say that it defines the profile and the identity of this island. We will discuss on our drive towards Ia how architecture is, we have the typical Cycladic architecture here as the one that we saw in Mykonos and on Patmos as well, but here there are some local variations that have to do with the volcanic materials that the local people have at disposal. Then we also see how agriculture again is influenced by the local ground, and we will talk about the label products of Santorini. That eruption is the one that gave this very dramatic offer, this very dramatic landscape. Santorini is an active volcano, so there are still from time to time it is active. That's why the two islets that you saw in the caldera, the old and the new Kameni, they are still being formed because there's still lava flowing out. There was, for example, you know that it was extended in the 1950s. There were earthquakes and a small eruption. So during the medieval days until nowadays, we see that this geological process goes on. And there are also other underwater volcanoes. We're talking about underwater craters scattered around the outer coastline of the island that are again very active. Remember I told you that Greece lies over the fault between the African and the European plate that slides. The African plate slides under the European, so the Mediterranean is getting narrower and narrower. And the result of that process is Greece having 5 volcanoes, not all active, with 2 being active, however, here in Santorini and one further to the east. right now you see on in front of you, right and left, something very relevant here with these terms. Now it's on your left, that's Fira. We are going further north to Ia, spelled as Oia. And on your right now, there is another village, Virgos, that means tower. You know, it's one of the medieval towns of Santorini, the ones formed when the pirates and the corsairs were threatening the local populations of the islands. So the traditional villages of Santorini, they are, as the pattern was, not by the water but on top of the caldera. Ia, where we are heading to, we have a 30-minute drive, almost 30 minutes to Ia, was one of those, is one of those 5 traditional villages of the island. Now it's the most cosmopolitan destination with the most expensive accommodation options, the fanciest of the shops, but you will see that there are signs pointing towards the ruins of the castle, that is the medieval castle of Ia. So now on your left, you have this beautiful caldera view. On your right, it's the open Aegean Sea and the nearby islands. We will drive, let's say, by the outskirts of the central town called Fira, which is the capital town of the island. I remind you, Fira, Thira, is the official name. Fira with an F instead of TH, that's the central town. It's again a very touristic place with lots of shops, lots of restaurants, but Ia is, I believe, slightly more picturesque than Fira. That's why we're heading there. Till we get to Ia. Now it's on your left, for example. These are the famous Santorini vines. It's a vineyard. So agriculture relies a lot on wines and grapes. They are very famous across the world. There is a local grape variety. There are several, but the most noble and famous is Assyrtiko, 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 and it gives white dry wines with a metallic, we can say, aftertaste. So you're gonna see those vines during our drive, and it's not the typical vineyard, what you've seen in other countries, what you expect to see, because it has, again, everything is influenced by the volcanic land and that volcanic background that the island has. So first of all, the land that you see, the soil that you see, consists of pumice, mostly pumice sand, pumice stone, and another type of soil that we call pozzolana. That was used as a construction material, and that's why you see the mines down here not active anymore. It was used as a construction material in many projects that had to do with canals, like the Suez Canal of Egypt. Pozzolana, when it's mixed with water, it gets very hard, very solid, and thick as concrete. So we will talk about that later. I'm just giving you an idea of what the quality of the soil is. And then we have the big boulders, big rocks, either black or red, that you will see scattered around. Those are materials and rocks that were all ended up on the surface after the explosion. So the one thing that you will see on the vines, on the vineyards, is that we do not let them grow in height. We keep them very short and low. That's because, as you've experienced in Mykonos, the winds here can be equally strong, and we do not want the vines to be blown away from the winds. That's why we get the branches of the older vines and we tangle them together, creating a round basket. And the new vine grows into that basket. So as the new vine leaves grow, they get tangled again into that basket. So it becomes a fluffier, we can say, vine, but it doesn't grow in height. So it remains low and attached to the ground. That's one reason, the winds. The second reason is that this type of soil, the volcanic soil, is heated up very quickly. That's why the vine does not get sun just from, it does not get light and heat just from the sun, but it is also the ground itself that emits more heat. That's why the grapes of Santorini are the first to be harvested across Greece. Already in August they start harvesting their grapes because they ripe quicker than any other grape and any other vineyard across the country. Also because of the quality of the soil, you can see all those vines around you, on your left for example. Because of the quality of the soil, it is almost impossible to have diseases like phylloxera, which back in 19th century destroyed several vineyards across Italy, France and Spain. Because of the volcanic and the qualities of the volcanic ground, we know that Santorini as a terroir was never affected and infected by any serious disease. And it keeps producing since the ancient days, and so that makes it one of the oldest continuously producing vineyards in the world. Now, because again of the soil, that's why we have this metallic taste. During your free time in Ia, if you sit at a cafe at a bar in order to enjoy the view, I strongly recommend to taste a glass of the local wine, that white dry Assyrtiko. And they also have, there are several grapes, but let's say the two most famous wines is the one, that white dry. And they also have a dessert wine called Vinsanto. It's red and sweet, quite similar to Porto, but you can give it a try. Vinsanto, Vinsanto, Vino de Santorini, Vinsanto, that dessert wine. Assyrtiko, Assyrtiko. Also, in the vineyards, you will see that they have those white stones scattered around, whitewashed, with lime, in order to guarantee this disinfection. We talked about lime and how the houses were whitewashed in the 1930s in order to repel the contagious diseases that were spread across the Aegean. So they still do that same thing here on the vines, but also, since those rocks are volcanic rocks, they again absorb heat and they serve as extra heaters during summertime. All those are vines around you. The irrigation is done by the soil itself because it can absorb that humidity So there's very little irrigation to none in most of the cases. It's the soil itself that can absorb humidity, keep humidity. Now, regarding agriculture, apart from the wines of Santorini, some other famous products are the cherry tomatoes, some small tomatoes that Santorini has, fava beans. Fava, it's like that, it's like a lentil in size but yellow. And we serve it as a spread, as a it's mashed. And then capers. About some basic elements of Cycladic architecture when we were in Mykonos. Here you see that again we have this the similar cubic structures. Timber, as you can tell, was very hard to find on the island. It had to be imported. But the locals here had noticed that the materials that they had, especially that pozzuolana, that local soil, it behaved better when on curved surfaces. That's why you see that many of the houses here have vaulted roofs. They don't have flat rooftops, they have a vaulted roof. So how did they do that traditionally? Back then when the materials were very scarce and they were hard to find. Each community used the same model for their vaulted roof. So they had wood, they created that, the model of a roof with wooden beams, and that consequently defined also the shape of the rectangular structure. So in order to save wood that they couldn't import very easily from other places, they placed that model on top of those houses, and little by little they started applying those pozzuolana layers, that soil mixed with water. As we've said, when this is mixed with water, it gets very thick and hard as concrete. And also, another quality of it is that it doesn't stick as a glue, it doesn't stick on the wood. So they applied it from the top of the vaulted roof down to the bottom of the curve. They let it sit and dry for a few days, and then they could simply dismantle that model, the sample of the wooden beams, and the vaulted roof was there. That's why you see that in traditional structures, those we're talking about 50s, 60s, 70s, because after those decades, Santorini started becoming a touristic destination. So wealth started arriving, and all those traditional houses, people could have any material they wanted, that is to say. They didn't rely on just what they had locally. So the old houses have this standard size. Also, all old houses, they have an underground cistern in order to hold rainwater. And until nowadays, there's no fresh water on the island. There are some desalination plants, but people buy bottled water for consumption. Otherwise, they can buy water that's not safe to drink, and they store it in that underground cistern for any household activity. So all those houses, the houses with a vaulted roof, when we're talking about the older days, it was a single model for any house of the village. There are scattered around, thrown around randomly, you're gonna see those big black and red boulders. Those are very hard to cut. That's why those, in most of the cases, were used as they were. It's very hard to cut them, to polish them, to work with them. So you just use them as you find them. And when we get to Ia, and you will be having those beautiful views to the cliffs of the caldera, you will see that there are some doors right on the slope without any house behind them. It's just the door on the wall. Those are the traditional houses of the poor fishermen, of the poor people back in early 20th century up to the 1960s, 1970s. And they are called iposkafa, that means dugout or tunnel houses. You know, the soil that we have on the caldera cliffs, it's very easy to scratch, to drill. It's very easy to dig a hole because it's not hard rock, it's not solid rock, it's more soil. So the poor fishermen, that they couldn't afford to build a house over the ground, they simply dug out the house into the ground. So we're talking about one room, or very rarely two-room houses. They could have like a small division in between, and those were the houses of the poor. Nowadays they are one of the most expensive options for accommodation here in Santorini. The dugout or tunnel houses. So until everyone arrives and we continue together.
I will, but I'm slow.
Then you can
Start going. Sounds of wine, famous wine in Santorini. I can find you the one but you buy those if it's not like a gift. With a bad price, you can try the sound of wine.
Keep the receivers on for a few more minutes in order to give you the necessary instructions, and then you're free to enjoy the town. Meeting point is here. So I'm waiting for all of you to arrive. Bell Tower. You will go to the right, and you will see a jewelry store called Alexandros. Right opposite, it's an alley next to a church. You'll see several people going down this way, and that takes you to the bells and the famous blue domes. But there are several blue domes around, and when looking at the pictures, I can only tell if they are the three blue domes or others. So don't worry about that. I'm the only one who will understand the difference. Nobody else back home. Uh, so all the way, it's just a path that takes you. You will find public restrooms on the way towards the right, and where you see the path dividing in two, it's better to follow the upper or the lower. It's the same. Εκεί που χωρίζει στο Ατλαντής. So, so if you want to see the view and the sunset where you have the path splitting, it's better to take the right side. It takes you to the balcony. The left takes you to the ruins of a castle, but it always gets very busy, and it's not that recommended in case you want to go further away. But I suggest you stick on that central path and choose a place to have a glass of wine as well. I remind you, 7:30, our meeting will be here by the red wall, and you'll see me and Chris standing with the sign, our sign.
Should we meet here at 7:30?
I'll be back here in 10 days from now. I can pick you up then.
That's one of the best.
А, ничего не вийде. Ти не знаєш, не
Não, tô na mão, mano.